Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to go ahead and open up my tackle boxes and show you the exact crankbaits that I like to use this time of year. So I'm talking anywhere from early winter all the way to, early spring, so the pre-spawn period. So generally that means, late November all the way through March. So that time period, the colder months. And crankbaits are just some of my favorite during the colder months, minus the fact that you're constantly snagging leaves on a lot of these lakes. That is really frustrating. But in general, crankbaits are really good ways to cover water and catch lots of fish during the coldest months. So we're gonna go through the exact baits that I like to throw, the models and the brands that I really rely on. The first, it's really a category of crankbait because I have a lot of different brands and models that I like to use within this category, but it's a lipless crankbait. So lipless crankbait's been around for a long time. They obviously don't have a lip. They've just got this very narrow, design here that as you're bringing it through the water, it has a very tight vibration. And lipless crankbaits are really good for any time the fish are up shallow. So I like to use them generally on, especially Lake Chickamauga, late fall, and early winter when those fish are still up shallow, crashing on those shad, and then I also use it in the early spring when the fish again are moving shallow, they're getting ready to spawn, maybe they're around grass or something like that. And lipless crankbaits are really known for being good to fish around grass because you can really free them from the grass very easily, but I also use them around like clay points and areas that have, slightly harder bottoms, but it's just overall shallow water. So that is kind of the key is whenever you're fishing that shallow water, I would say 4 foot or less, a lipless crankbait is going to be one of the most efficient baits to throw, whether around grass or not around grass. So lipless crankbaits are really good. Some of the ones that I like the most, of course, the Strike King Red Eye Shad is one of my favorites because it has that nice shimmy when you pause it, which to me is a big plus. I use the Booyah lipless crankbaits a lot. Those are I use the the one knockers and the traditional ones. All of those different Booyah crankbaits I've used quite a bit. I've got a bunch like that Jackal one that I was just showing you. Really, lipless crankbaits are a little bit different than the other crankbaits I'm showing you, which I have very specific models that I like to use for specific times and situations. Lipless crankbaits, I've got a ton of different styles and brands in my tackle boxes, and I just kind of rotate, amongst them. Some days I'll throw the original Bill Lewis rattle trap, and some days, I'll throw the Booyah or the Red Eye Shad, something like that. So I just kind of mix it up. I find with a lipless crankbait, I'm just constantly trying different baits to see, what bait the fish actually want. So let's dive into some more specific baits that I like to throw this time of year. Okay, because honestly, crankbaits are a category of bait I haven't dove into every single bait and brand. I really over the years have found a handful of baits that I have a lot of confidence in, and I really tend to lean on those pretty hard. And sometimes, of course, I'll find a new crankbait and add it to my arsenal. But in general, I have very specific crankbaits that I lean pretty hard on, especially this time of year. So one of those crankbaits is a Bandit 200 series. This is a pretty awesome little crankbait. Bandit 200 generally is a little bit of a wider movement or action than some of the other ones that I'm going to be showing you, but it's comes in a lot of great colors. Bandit does a really good job of providing different colors that are really good in the spring and winter time. They cover a lot of different situations for me, but this is one of my favorite colors. I think this one is just the traditional spring craw color. This one is very, very popular here in Tennessee, Alabama, a lot of these different, you know, southern states. This is a really, really good color. But the reason I like the Bandit 200 is, number one, it covers that like 6 to 8 foot range very, very well, has a great action to it. It comes over, you know, hard cover very, very well. It's pretty buoyant, so if I'm casting it around wood or something like that, I know that it's gonna be able to kind of float away from that cover, and so it does work through that type of cover very, very well. But it's one of the crankbaits I use when the water's a little bit dingier, so a little bit dirtier, because it does have a rattle in it. It does make a little bit of noise, and it, because it has a wider wobble, it just puts out a lot of vibration. So the Bandit 200 is just one of my absolute favorites throughout the fall, and then getting back into early spring. Really, really good bait. The next box, which is my Wigglewort and DT6 box, is full of exactly that: Wiggleworts, rock crawlers, and DT6s. So whenever you're going to like the Ozark lakes or any lakes that have a ton of rock, you want to have these two type of baits right here. Let me get them untangled. Gosh, it's a mess. All right, I haven't changed any of the hooks on these original Wiggleworts because I don't use them all that much. These are worth a lot of money. This is a pre-Rapala Wigglewort here. It's not one of the most popular colors, but it is a really good color. That's kind of like that spring call color. And then you've got the rock crawler. Both of these baits, what they do extremely well is they, just like the rock crawler's name implies, it crawls over rock very, very well. And when these baits do crawl over these rocks, they have a very wide hunting action. So it'll go from side to side, very erratic, and really triggers strikes from fish, especially in clear water. Wigglewort and the rock crawler are two of my favorite baits for fishing in clear water. You know, there's not a whole lot of crankbaits I trust more for crystal clear water than these. And so because of that hunting action, and they do have a fairly you know, tight wobble to them, you know, I love these two crankbaits. But again, the rock crawler is actually one that I've been using more and more in recent years to catch a lot of my fish, because I'm afraid of using the original Wiggleworts. The next crankbait, of course, is the DT6. DT6, and again, all these are all snagged up. The DT6 is one that I trust very, very much on you know, cold water trips to catch a lot of fish. It's got a very tight wobble. Out of all these crankbaits I just talked about, other than the lipless crankbait, the DT6 has the tightest wobble. It's really good in clear and stained water. It doesn't have any, you know, rattles to it. Of course, the terminal tackle, like the split rings and the hooks, probably, you know, make a little bit of rattling sound. But in general, it crawls over rocks pretty well. It doesn't have, every one of these baits is a little bit different because it's made of wood. So some are a little bit more buoyant, some are a little bit more neutrally buoyant, but in general, these aren't very buoyant crankbaits. So they're not great around a ton of wood or snags, but they are really good around fairly clean bottoms, rocky bottoms, you know, gravel, things like that. Pea gravel is a really good situation for a DT6, but this is just one of my absolute favorite cold water crankbaits, and it also casts really good. The Bandit 200 does not cast very well. It's very light. It tends to catch the air a little bit more. The DT6 is just a solid, you know, little crankbait. It's not super heavy, but it does have a little bit of heft to it for its size, and you can cast it pretty good. The rock crawler and the Wiggleworts are kind of, you know, mid level as far as castability. But yeah, anyways, guys, I just wanted to show you the crankbaits that I really like this time of year, because I get a lot of people asking me, what kind of crankbaits do you throw? And of all the different types of baits out there, I think that crankbaits vary widely. So like you could have two crankbaits that look exactly the same, but they're made by two different brands and they are completely different. And you can even have the same brand and two different crankbaits that were made by that same brand, and they also act completely different. Case in point is the pre-Rapala wigglewort versus the newer wiggleworts. Both of them look exactly the same, but they're just not exactly the same. I'm not as picky about it as some people are. Some people only fish the pre-Rapala wiggleworts, especially during tournament situations. I think both of them will work, but the whole point is that crankbaits vary so widely. So when I find a crankbait that I love and trust, it goes in one of these boxes, and it takes a lot for me to kind of lose my confidence in that bait. And it also conversely takes a lot for a new crankbait to enter these boxes. So anyways, figured I'd share with you my early season and cold water crankbait setup or choices. And so let me know what you think of my choices that I just shared with you. Do you have any crankbaits you suggest I add to this list, or do you disagree with some of the choices that I've made? Let me know in the comment section below, and also ask any questions you like in that comment section. It helps me, come up with all this content. And also, all this, the crankbaits that I talked about today, you can go on 44tackle.com. I'm going to be putting the links in the description below. And if you use those links to buy or place an order, you get 10% off of your order. And the last thing I want to mention is I showed you a lot of crankbaits that I hadn't replaced the treble hooks on. All crankbaits, you need to be super careful about changing out the stock hooks and old hooks with newer, sharper hooks. I use Hayabusa treble hooks. They are super sharp. I really like the ones with the NRB coating. It's kind of like a Teflon-esque type coating that makes it very, very slick and easy to penetrate a fish's, tough tissue and bone. And it's just so important to replace your hooks with premium hooks. So just want to mention that. And so I'll put a link in the description for those as well. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water.